Hi, my name is Paul Martinelli. I want to share a story with you. And I think the backdrop here is just perfect. I'm in Thornbury, England at the Thornbury Castle. And it was 7 years ago that I had my very first date with my wife, Kelly. And on that date, I was business partners at that time with several other people in the personal development industry. And before we went to the date, I said, you know, I needed to stop by this one meeting. It was a Think and Grow Rich study group, and I needed to stop in, and I was going to be teaching a little bit on the lesson on imagination. And in that class, I was guiding people into the thought process of kind of coming from their highest good. In other words, imagining a mental model of perfection that you would want in your life, and then kind of describing not only what it is that you see, but also kind of what it is that you feel. And it's kind of a strange first date, but my wife, Kelly, at the time, wrote down that one of the things she wanted to do is that she wanted to see castles in England and castles all throughout Europe. And that was just her fantasy. Now, at this time, you've got to remember, Kelly had never been to Europe. Kelly was working as a paralegal in the legal industry and had no idea of how she was ever going to get to Europe to see castles. And now we fast forward to today, and here we are, and we have just spent a beautiful 4 days at Thornbury Castle. We were just in Ireland, where I was working, and now we're here because this is, you know, kind of ticking off of one of the things in her bucket list. And if Kelly were to look back to that first date, she would say that that was a turning point in her life. We had a good time on that date, and it didn't end there. That's kind of how turning points are. Sometimes turning points are when we have something that's kind of good in our life, and then we look back over time and we see that that good has expanded and has expressed itself in ways that we designed for it to happen. Also, there's times in our life where we have turning points where our back is right up against the wall, where things happen and they are nowhere near what we had hoped for. Sometimes this is a divorce, it's a bankruptcy, it's a rough time in business. Sometimes it's a health diagnosis. But whatever the case is, there's times in our life where we are faced with a situation that we would define at that time as bad. And we would think to ourselves that we are not resourced. You know, how are we going to be able to get through this? How are we going to be able to navigate our way out of this to a higher good? And it almost becomes impossible for us to visualize a higher good when we're faced with some of those challenges. And yet we know, if we'll look back 7 years, sometimes 5 years, sometimes 6 months later, we'll find that those times in our life were actually turning points in our lives. That they were times in our life where we were almost kind of put in the pressure cooker of life, where we were forced to become aware of resources and skills and talents and abilities that we didn't know we had. And what I would like you to consider is that we don't always have to have a condition or circumstance happen to us from the outside in order for us to change. That we can, as creative human beings, actually be causative in a universe of cause and effect. You and I are causative. That we could actually cause our own turning point, that we could define a day, define a moment where we will actually sit down and create a mental model of our highest good. We will tune into kind of the vibrational frequency. What does that feel like? What does that look like? And then begin to navigate a life where we live from that. You know, there's many people who are in the industry of personal growth and development and human potential that teach this process of living into your dream. And certainly that's one way. Although if we look at some of the great teachers and great masters of thought, of the creative process in an individual, most of them, from those who are really at the highest calibrated kind of thinking vibration, people like Thoreau, people like Emerson, Thomas Troward, when we when we read their writings, they're teaching a process of coming from our goal, from our dream, not working into our dream, not coming from a place of want and trying to navigate the how, but coming from a place of being, of actually coming from that highest good. In the Turning Point seminar, on day one, we spend probably 4 hours in this exercise, in real-time interactive exercise, where we'll guide you through this process, through this creative thinking. And you'll learn the process by actually creating this mental model of perfection, by actually defining the vibrational frequency of that thought required to manifest and match that in a universe of energy. So for those of you who have spouses, you have children, you have brothers or sisters who haven't yet begun the journey of kind of personal growth and development, seeking their true potential, defining their meaning in their life, this is a great opportunity. It's a great introduction. It's a great seminar for that. So I want to encourage you to join me at the Turning Point seminar. I really do believe it'll be life-changing for you. Thank you.